Honey, home.
Hey baby, welcome home. How's your day?
Oh, it's been another rough day in the kitchen. Let's get through some of this viewer mail. Hey, what's happening, fans of the Skinhead Gourmet? I'm Eddie, and back from a hard day in the kitchen. And I figured I'm going to answer some of our viewer mail. We just finished our 50th episode, and to celebrate that, I took some questions and answers from the Facebook page. And we're going to run through a few. So what age did I become a skinhead? Well, it was around the age of 14. I was going to ska shows and hardcore shows, and it was around the time I started wearing boots and shaving my head and start kind of into the ethic of it. Open the door! I can smell. So which brand knives do I use and why? Well, there's a few different brands that I go with. I like to have a mix of both Japanese and German steel in my kit. As far as the German-made stuff, I love Forstner and Victorinox. It's good quality for a fairly reasonable price, and they take a beating. It's softer steel, it's easier to resharpen, and I know my knives get abused at work, especially when other people use them. So it's something that I can, basically keep in decent shape. As far as Japanese knives go, either you'd want to go for a small handmade manufacturer, or I've even been using the Kaufland Katana series because it's cheap Damascus, well, cheap in price. The quality is decent, it's very hard steel, and it holds an edge well. The only problem being that hard, it's a little brittle and apt to chip. But I like having a mix because I love the super sharp Japanese knives that I don't have to keep up on as much to sharpen, although I'm still pretty fastidious about doing so. It's just I know I can go through a whole day of high use, and they're not going to dull out on me. But as far as a brand, to me it's more about the quality of the steel and the shape of the knife than the brand itself. If you find something that's quality and it fits your application, that's definitely the way to go. Being creative with budgeting my shopping, or dealing with being unemployed or having a low income, that's tough. Even under the best circumstances, that's tough. I know one of the things I like to cover is, like with our boning out a whole chicken episode, it's a lot of times when you buy whole ingredients, it's going to be cheaper. Instead of buying steaks, it's better to save up for, maybe a rib roast, or, buy whole chickens instead of like cut and prepared pieces. The bigger you go with your proteins, the cheaper it's going to be per pound. It's a little bit more upfront, but it's less often you have to buy, so you have to kind of weigh that, and instead of using frozen vegetables, canned, or in any way prepared, buy whole. Check your farmers markets. I don't know if everybody has this luxury, but here in Nevada we have the 99-cent only stores, which actually have surprisingly good produce. But basically shopping around is the best way to do it, and the more you make from scratch, usually the more money you'll save. It's also going to end up being healthier because it's less preservatives and stabilizers and other chemicals that don't need to be in your food, and you're paying for that. You're paying for somebody else doing the labor to prepare your food ahead of time. The more stuff you make on your own, the less money you're paying when you go to make it yourself. My favorite meal to prepare and my favorite meal to eat? I hate those questions because there's too many to choose from. Favorite meals to prepare, a lot of times are pasta dishes, just because it's not super hard, and I grew up eating a lot of pasta, so I love, basically Americanized Italian food, or honest-to-God Italian food. But I love pastas and sauces. They're easy, it's, to me it's fun. You get the pasta, you have your sauce going. Once the pasta's done, you put it into the pot, you flip it around, and you have a lot of room for creative plating. You can have a lot of fun with it. You have something that's just good. Plain and simple. It's filling. You can get your starch, veggies, proteins, dairy, all into one plate. You know, the possibilities are endless. As far as favorite to eat, that's an even harder question. Probably my favorite thing in the world would be actual cheesesteaks from Philadelphia, preferably Pat's down at 9th and Passyunk, or good pizza from the East Coast. As much as people try to tell you otherwise, you're not getting it the same outside of the Philly, New York area, like the tri-state where I grew up. Chicago's good, but it's a completely different can of worms with theirs. But, you know, as much as I love, you know, fancy food, haute cuisine and all that, pizza and cheesesteak guy, or burgers and fries, you know, or, you know, if you want to look at something that's a little bit fancier, I love anything with duck. Duck is about one of my favorite things to cook, and it is one of my favorite things to eat. I just love the more humble, I guess, you know, basically working class food. You know, the simple stuff, it's cheaper, and to me it just tastes better. It's easier to put heart into it, and that's where a lot of the flavor comes from. It's just another way to release the hurt they can't escape. If I could prepare a meal for anyone, live or dead, who would it be and what would I make? That's a question I hate even more than favorite meal to prepare and eat, because there's so many good answers. I'd love to just make like something Middle Eastern or Moroccan and have somebody like a Benjamin Franklin or an Albert Einstein, you know, somebody that I have, you know, this huge respect for and would just love to sit and talk to. And, you know, eating around a big plate of a couple different dishes when you're eating with your hands is one of my favorite ways to eat. If it had to be someone live, I'd kind of love to have, you know, there's not many celebrity chefs I'm a big fan of. I'd have to say maybe have Tony Bourdain over for my rosemary Chambord duck, see what he thinks, and he'd probably be an awful lot of fun to sit and eat with. You know, I'd had one experience where I got to drink with the man when he was still running Leal, and he's a funny guy. You know, I imagine that would make for an excellent meal. Organic foods, and are they worth it? That's a really hard question. You know, it's basically the closer to the farm it is, the better it's going to be. You know, small independent farmers a lot of times aren't going to use too much in the way of chemicals and pesticides you'd hope, just because they have to rely on the quality of their product more than anything else. You know, giant factory farms are going to be pumping everything they make full of, you know, the garbage that comes from Monsanto, and yeah, that's basically poison that you're putting into your body. And if that's your only option, organic's always very expensive, and you do pay for cleaner food and stuff that may not have as many nutrients leached from it. But you're better off if you can find small, like, you know, family farms, because a lot of them are going to be using the same, you know, they may be keeping seed stock that's almost heirloom quality, where it's been passed down for years and years, and they're keeping the same seed lines alive. You know, there are people that are going to be, if they're eating it themselves, are going to be more into making sure the meat they're putting out is better and cleaner and healthier. It's just like finding food on a budget. You kind of have to shop around and make sure what you're getting is the best thing out there. And a lot of times, what you have to spend dictates what you can eat. You know, I'm not one to ever say that fast food or just packaged ramen noodles is ever a viable option, because you don't want to put garbage into yourself, and it's not going to fill you up as well. It's not nutritional. It's going to fill your stomach, and it's not going to last for a while, and it's not going to keep you going. You'll end up causing yourself more problems, and you'll be even hungrier for, you know, more low quality food. I think if you're going out and even if it's not organic, if you're buying things like, you know, whole chicken and like whole vegetables, you're going to be better off if you're buying anything processed or pre-prepared. I think that's usually the first thing you need to look at, and then start checking out your local farmers markets. And, you know, if you know it's been grown locally and it hasn't been transported and it hasn't been, you know, chemically ripened and all that, it is worth paying a little extra for. It's going to taste better, and it's going to be better for you. As far as buying into organic, if you're going to one of the major chain supermarkets, a lot of times you're just paying an awful lot of money for what may not be all that different. My favorite cuisine. Another rotten question. You know, there's too many to choose from. I mean, I love basically like American street food. You know, hot dogs, hamburgers, cheesesteaks, Chicago Italian beefs, the Maxwell Street Polish sausages, pizza, gyros, stuff like that. But if you want to narrow it down to just like one ethnic cuisine, that's still not any easier. You know, I grew up eating a lot of Chinese food, and Americanized or actual Chinese. Love both. I'm a huge fan of Japanese food too. It's different moods for different foods. You know, I'm a big fan of Indian food. You know, the tikka masalas and the curries, chicken vindaloo, tandoor chickens. I love Ethiopian food, which isn't too far removed from Indian. It's similar in a lot of its mentality. Same thing with Moroccan food as well. It's a lot of spice. It's very aromatic and fragrant. You can get the same thing with Thai food, with just different spices. You know, I love a lot of, I guess, non-Western food because it's a lot of times it's big on spice, it's big on flavors, and a lot of it's meant to not be eaten in a single plate in front of you. That's one thing that I do love, and I come to love about eating Chinese food. You know, you get your own plate in front of you, and that's only to spit bones onto. You know, you share a bowl with people around you. That's going to make the whole meal better because it's not everybody has their own plate and their own spot at the table. You're better off when you have to share, you have to communicate. It brings people together, and you get more, you know, it makes food more than just simple nutrition. It's, you know, it's life enriching, and that should really be what food's all about. Cooking wines. It's another tough question, but a little bit easier than some of the others. As far as what kinds, I mean, in a lot of professional kitchens, you have a choice between a red and a white, basically a burgundy and a chablis, and it usually comes in a box. You know, a lot of times you don't want to use the most expensive bottle of wine you can find to cook with, because you're not going to be getting the fullness of everything that makes it, you know, fancy and why it's expensive. Of course, on the same hand, I've been told by a few sommelier friends that I've had in my own experience, usually any bottle of wine over $20 is kind of a waste because most people's palates aren't going to pick up on what makes it more expensive. But, you know, you can usually shop around and find a bottle of wine for anywhere from $2 to $7 that if you're cooking, you want to cook with what you like the flavor of. You know, different applications, it may be a little bit different, but usually just if you're going for an all-purpose, something you can keep and use for multiple dishes, go for a medium-bodied, medium-flavored wine, one red and one white to keep in the house. The Chardonnays are great for your whites, although Pinot, or that Sauvignon Blanc would actually be a great white, as it also has a very fresh kind of green flavor to it, almost like a green pepper with the aroma of like fresh cut grass to it. I also love cooking with heavy reds, you know, like your Shirazes, Syrah, Malbecs, or Cabernet Sauvignons. But you can always go with a Merlot just to basically get that fullness of a red wine without overpowering the flavor. And that's another thing. As you cook with wine, you're going to reduce and concentrate the flavor. So sometimes a heavy flavored wine isn't the way to go because it's going to overpower what you're cooking with. But you can always be safe. If you like the flavor in a glass, you'll like it when you cook with it. And you want to make sure that basically you taste things before you work with them. That's what we're told working in traditional kitchens is, you know, you have to taste as you go along to make sure it all works. If you buy a bottle of wine to cook with, crack it, let it breathe for a little bit. If it's a white, maybe give it a little chill. And you just want to, you know, give it a sip and see how's this going to balance against what I'm cooking with. That's more important than, you know, trying to find like a certain vintage or from a certain part of the country or a certain country more than anything else. You know, we all have our preferences as to where wines come from, and that's something that you have to take in consideration. What do you like? Because at the end of the day, that's what matters the most. What you and the people you're cooking for like, not what, you know, trying to fit anything else. So the song we're using in this episode is ASPCA by No Redeeming Social Value. Cheers to them, by the way. And I wanted to make sure that, you know, I made a mention that they've got it on a brand new comp that's out from Chance for Change Records, and it's a benefit for the Philadelphia Humane Society, and it's something I 100% support. It's a $2 compilation CD with some great bands on it, and this is Sophie here. She's a little rescue mutt that my girlfriend Tracy and I rescued when she was only a few months old. But I'm a huge fan of the idea of rescuing dogs and making sure shelters have the money so they can operate. They don't have to put dogs down because they don't have space or they're just so overwhelmed. You know, anytime you get a chance, rescue a dog. If you see a charity that actually looks worthwhile, it isn't going to hurt to put a few dollars out for them. There's a lot of good people doing a lot of hard work, and instead of going out and dropping a whole lot of money on a purebred, there's a lot of great dogs that need love. You know, and it's just a great way to enrich your own family life. And they're pretty good at helping cleaning up some of your leftover scraps in the kitchen too. Isn't that right, Soph? My fat little girls are a little garbage disposal. But make sure you check out the Bandcamp site for Chance for Change Records and get their no-kill compilation. It's $2. It's well worth it for the music on it. It's all good. And for that price, it's hard to say no. It's a digital download, and I'll have the website right before the credits. Thanks for watching. I'm Eddie, Skinhead Gourmet. Boy. Open the door! I can smell a death! They put me in! I take a deep breath!